Well, good morning, friends. Thank you for gathering here today, your presence here in Troutman Hall at Grace St. Luke's Church. And for those who are joining us online or who will see this at another time, we are delighted to have Anasa Troutman with us today to reflect on Clayborn Temple in many ways. But before we begin, I'll invite us into a moment of silence and a prayer. Gracious God, in the aftermath of the April 28th fire that consumed Clayborn Temple, a sacred landmark in our city, we join countless others with grieving hearts and hope for its restoration. Mindful of this temple as an international beacon of resilience, faith, and the work to build beloved communities, help us to remember that the spirit of this temple is stronger than any fire, and our call to join others in building it again with faith, courage, and abundant love. We thank you especially this day for Anasa Troutman and for the work that she does, the people with whom she does her work and serves you for the greater good. And be with each of us as we engage a conversation with her on this most holy day. Amen.
Amen.
Those of you just arriving, please join us here in the front, and I'm going to move to my seat and we'll start a conversation. So good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad to have you here and glad to have friends with us. And this is an opportunity for us to reflect. And there's so much to be said about Clayborn Temple.
Yes.
And you have told me before you have a lot to say about Clayborn Temple, right? Because of its history and its impact in our community. And so just to let you take a moment to introduce yourself. There are things that we've shared through our public communications and such, but just to give a snapshot about Anasa Troutman and who you are and how you've come to this work. So.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Anasa Troutman. I live here in this amazing, beautiful city. I've been here for 8 years, almost 9. I guess it'll be 9 years in January I've been here. I am the founder and CEO of the Big We, and we are stewards of historic Clayborn Temple. My work historically has been about the intersection of culture and the economy, thinking about building story-based strategies to be able to rethink and reimagine humanity and society. And I came here thinking I was going to be here for 6 months and discovered that Memphis was a perfect place for my work and for my vision for the world. And so I never left. And here I am, just every day trying to figure out what stories I want to tell, how I want to leverage those stories to open up people's hearts and to help people think about how to embody those stories in their everyday life.
I see. And when did you move to Memphis?
I started coming here in 2016, like into 2016, probably in the fall of 2016. And then 17, I was back and forth. I lived in Nashville, so it was easy for me to come back and forth and back and forth. And then in that 2017 time, I was invited to executive produce and co-write a musical about the sanitation worker strike for MLK 50, for the 50th commemoration of King's assassination. And so I moved here in January of 18 to be able to mount that production. And then I never left.
Okay. Well, we're glad you're here, and you started out just talking about Memphis, and
Yes.
you talked about it as beautiful, and the
Yes.
things about Memphis, and people around the world have their impressions of Memphis, and you
Yes.
travel around the world
I
in your
do.
work, and even locally, people have their own thoughts about Memphis, and when you
Yes.
ask them to say, what do you like about Memphis? What do you not like about Memphis? And people can go a lot of places.
Yes.
What is it about Memphis that keeps you here, that you
Yes.
like to celebrate? And
Yes.
what is it about Memphis that you would describe are the challenges or the things that are, these are daily conversations
Yeah,
almost.
that's such a good question
Yeah.
because one of my biggest points of contention is people who don't see the beauty in Memphis.
Okay.
And I think that some of the things that other people feel like are difficult about the city are the same things that make me hopeful and excited about the city.
Okay.
When I first got here, because my job was to write a musical about something that actually happened, I had to do a lot of research. And so I started to learn a lot of stories about the city. And I went all the way back to Trail of Tears. I went all the way back to like indigenous communities here before then, just to understand the energies and the behaviors and the happenings that shaped our current context. Because you can't just, I think a lot of people think about Memphis, they think Memphis's history started in 1968 with the assassination of Dr. King. And you really need to understand the city, you have to really go much, much further back, just like any other place, yes? And so what the pattern that emerged for me was that in a conversation about the intersection of race and class and culture in an American context, there is no more concentrated version of that story than here in Memphis, right? If you want to go, again, indigenous folks living on the river, Trail of Tears, like everybody who lived in the South who went through the Trail of Tears had to cross the river here in Memphis. And then you move forward, like the first black millionaire in America, the first black bank with $1 million in assets, the first Grand Wizard of the KKK, the Cotton Exchange, right? The center of the cotton trade during enslavement. All those things, right? You cannot separate those things. To me, they are a through line of history, all the way through what's happening today. And we know that for one more year, we have the biggest rates of child poverty in the country, right? So if you want to have a conversation about what that intersection looks like, you have to have it in Memphis. Nice. And for me, as somebody who cares about that intersection and wants to be a transformative force at that intersection, it only made sense that if the history of that conversation was here, then the future of that conversation was also here. And if I wanted to be a part of the future of the country, then Memphis was a place for me to do my work.
I see. Wow. Well, that is to be celebrated.
Yeah.
And for us to know more deeply what that means for each of us who are Memphians, and when we tell our story about this place.
I think Memphis is also, my favorite thing about Memphis is that it is a place of deep imagination and innovation. If you think about, if you just want to have a conversation about the creativity here, the art that comes out of this place, right? All the music, all the dance, the fact that we have the fastest growing dance company in the country, the fact that we have the only metal museum in the country, the fact that so much of our modern American music was born and has its roots in this city and the region. There just is like so much evidence for the fact that Memphis is the creative soul of the country and maybe the world, if you ask me. But I'm like, sorry, Paris, it's us. I've been fighting with a lot of people in New Orleans lately because I'm like, it's Memphis, and they're like, it's New Orleans. I'm like, I understand why you think that, but it's not.
Right.
I understand, I get it, and I love New Orleans, but New Orleans doesn't have the breadth that Memphis has, right? And then if you want to go beyond like actual art product and you want to talk about innovation in children's medicine, innovation in logistics, innovation in technology, there is something in the water in this city that breeds innovation and imagination in ways that I have never seen in any other city that I've ever lived in.
Wow.
And that's my opinion, though. I could be wrong.
It works. And it's being recorded, so we could... Yeah. So in all of this, we have this place, Clayborn Temple.
Yes.
Many people know its history, but I would suggest that most don't know its history. And it's an important place for a lot of reasons, and it has an important history, and it's a rich history, and we don't have, nearly the knowledge that we should have about it. And so can you, mindful of some other things that we'll discuss,
Yes.
kind of broad stroke snapshot, Clayborn Temple.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to this is a photo of Clayborn when it was first born. That's so funny. I talk about it as being born. I do that all the time, and I'm like, it wasn't born. Somebody built it, but in my mind, I'm like, Clayborn was born, and this is what she looked like when she was born. It's her baby picture. Um, it was built as Second Presbyterian, so we all know Second Pres, right? As a congregation. Well, this was the building that they built when they were born, right? When Second Pres was planted, this was their building. And it was built in the downtown area, obviously. It was 1892 when they had January 1st, 1892 was their very first day to open. And it was a thriving, large, well off community, spiritual community in downtown. Fast forward into the 50s, and there's conversations about segregation and race are growing. And do y'all know Elaine Turner? Anybody know Elaine
Yes.
Turner? If you have never met Elaine Turner, like look up Heritage Tours and go take her Memphis history tour. It is phenomenal. So,
Yeah. We.
oh, wonderful! See, you guys, I love y'all. So, Missy Lane will tell you stories about being a teenager and being outside of Second Pres and protesting to be able to go inside and worship, and how they had young white kids who are in the inside who were members of Second Pres who were having kneel-ins inside the sanctuary saying, we want our black friends to come inside and pray with us and worship with us. And it was too much. They couldn't handle it, and they were like, you know what? This is not a conversation that we're ready to have right now. And they sold the building to the AME church and moved out to where we know them to be right now. Right. And so this is one of the things I actually love about Clayborn Temple is that it has had a very rich and robust history as a congregation that was all white, and a very rich and robust history as a conversation that was all black. And so it is one of the few places in the city where everybody feels welcome and feels at home and feels ownership of the space. And it is, to me, really important. So moving forward, they sold the building, I think, in 55 to the AME Church, and it became Historic Clayborn Temple, named after a bishop of the AME Church at the time. And the pastor was a Canadian fella, and he was very confused about what was happening across race and class in Memphis and in the States. He was just like, I don't understand. Like, we all are believers. We all are Christian people. We are all, brothers and sisters in Christ. I don't understand what's happening here. And so Clayborn became known as a place that was welcoming to people who were wrestling with the future of humanity in that conversation around race and class. And so because of its reputation of being a place where folks were having political and social and economic conversations, and because of its history, I mean, it's a proximity to downtown in the mayor's office, City Hall.
Yes.
And then when it was time for the strike to happen, it became the perfect location to hold as a headquarters for the sanitation worker strike in 1968.
So it operated, I'm mindful that I think it was 1999.
When it closed, yes. It
Yeah.
operated as an AME church from the 50s, I think, again, don't quote me, but 55-ish,
Okay.
all the way to
To
1999.
And then where did the congregation that was there, where did they start to worship after they left in 1999?
So the reason why it closed was because the congregation was dwindling to be such a small number. If you think about kind of like the way that urban renewal and kind of the economics of urban cities, and especially poor blacker neighborhoods, were between the 80s and 90s, the congregation shrank so small that their income was such that they couldn't sustain the building anymore.
Okay.
And so those folks who were members of Clayborn Temple really dispersed to whatever other AME churches they had affiliation or affinity for. There was not like one place they were like, we're all going to go here. The Clayborn congregation was really decimated and was no longer in existence.
Okay.
And so folks went to go over and join whatever churches that they felt comfortable joining.
So then that happens, and then the building is, of course, it has been seized for public use. It's
Yes, it was-
inaccessible to some
Yes.
degree, and what took place, or what was the impetus around its purchase and
Yeah.
restoring it? Because that's the story
Yeah.
that's connected to your work today.
Yeah. So the building was pretty much, they locked the door and left, right, in '99. And so you know what happens to buildings when they're empty, they start to wither. I'm fascinated by that phenomenon. I don't know if there's any scientific research about it, but when the human energy leaves a building, then it just starts to buckle. And so that happened at Clayborn Temple. And so, the roof caved in. It rained in there for probably 10 years. And so you know what rain does to wood. So you think about the pews and the floors and the walls and all the ways that water can destroy or create space for renewal, I like to think about. So in 2015, 2016, a man named Frank Smith bought it because y'all know Downtown Church, which is actually a plant for Second Pres. Richard, who was their lead pastor, had this dream of being in Clayborn Temple. He lives downtown. He lives on Mud Island, and he would go for a run every day. And every day on his run, he would pass by Clayborn Temple. And they were at the time worshiping at Central Station. And we all know what happened with Central Station. They closed. They became a hotel. And when they closed for renovation, Downtown Church lost their lease. And Frank was like, why are we renting anyway? I've got money. I could just buy us a building. And so Richard was like, Clayborn Temple. And so they went through all the process to purchase Clayborn Temple with the hopes that they would be able to worship there on Sunday and then find a way to activate the space during the week. And I met them probably 6 months into that prospect. And I came to Memphis because I had a grant here, Memphis Music Initiative. I had a girls program that we were doing a whole bunch of art stuff. And somebody on the staff said, oh, do you know about Clayborn Temple? I think you would like what they're doing over there. You should just go by and see. And I just walked in uninvited. It was very dangerous. Everybody had on steel toe boots and hard hats, and I had a sundress and some sandals. And I just walked in there. I just walked in there like, what is happening in here? And I met Frank, and we had a really beautiful conversation. We both cried. It was very strange. And I was like, he said, I don't know what we're going to do, because the thing I wanted to do here, the community has said they don't want. And so I don't know what we're going to do. And I was like, I know exactly what to do. You should let me help you. And a year later, I became a part of the team.
Okay. So then the Big We.
Yeah.
How is that? And describe, because I remember, do any of you know about the Big We? So a handful of people, I heard
impressive.
of the Big We.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was confused. I was like, you mean like you and I? We? Like the Big We? What's the Big We? And learned that it was an actual organization.
Yes.
So because that's the auspices through which work is being done.
Yeah.
So talk a bit about it and how it fits in this
I would love
picture
to.
as we kind of...
Yeah, the Big We started as a podcast. And I wanted to have a conversation about how we inspire people to live a life of love. And the person who I was like kind of designing the podcast with, he was like, I don't know, I just feel like we need to be talking to the bigger we. And I was like, that's it. That's the name. It needs to be called the Big We. And then
So meaning we, the community, we, the
all of
people,
us,
all of us.
every
Okay.
single person on the planet. If there's some people somewhere else that we don't know about,
Okay.
some animals, some trees, like the Big We. That's why it's the Big We, because it's
Okay.
like not
Okay.
we with a little W, like we with a super big W.
Okay.
And how do we create a circle that's big enough for everyone? No matter where you came from, no matter what you've done, no matter what's been done to you, no matter what you think, no matter what you voted for, like whoever you are, because I feel like our spiritual mandate is to love people. And it doesn't say love people who agree with you. It doesn't say love people who have not harmed you. It doesn't say love people who look like you. It just says love everybody. And so I am trying to figure that out. That's my life's work, is to figure out how we can learn how to love each other, how I can learn. Hopefully if I can learn how to love, I can help show other people how to do it. And I'm on my way. I'm not there all the way yet. Well, I'm significantly down the road.
Right. So you have this organization that has
Yes.
formed, and this work is being done. The building has been purchased. This is
Yes.
2015,
Yeah.
2016, and
So I
then
was working as a consultant on the
okay,
building, and at some point, Frank decided that he didn't want to be involved in the development of the building anymore, and he wanted to sell it. And
okay,
so I, at that point, was very attached. There was no way I was packing up and going back to Nashville to do anything.
okay.
And so I decided that if he was going to sell it, it was going to be to me. And so I got on the phone and got on the plane and went and met people and called everybody I could think of. And I raised $1.3 million. And I came home and bought the building on December 19th, 2019.
Wow, wow.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
I didn't realize that how that came about. Is
Yeah, it
that
was a
you?
wild time.
Yes.
Because I had never done anything like that before. I had barely only ever owned a house. I had not thought of myself as a preservationist or a real estate developer or anything, but it was just something in me that compelled me and knew that I could not allow this building to fall into the hands of a traditional developer, that it would just like rip my heart and soul out. And I also knew at that time I had met enough people, I had enough conversations, I understood the story of Clayborn Temple enough to understand the possibility of it to transform the city. And it was, to me, too risky to allow it to fall into the hands of somebody who was not thinking of it in that context. Somebody who was thinking of it just as a venue or as a, there was somebody who wanted to turn it into a homeless shelter, somebody who wanted to turn it into a Live Nation venue, somebody, like, there's people who had ideas, but there were not ideas that I felt like were worthy of the history of the space. And so it is a little bit like audacious to think that I could be the one to do it because there was no evidence at the time. But to me, the compulsion that I had was enough. The belief I had in the future of the building was enough for me to believe I could do it.
Wow.
I know, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
But so you've made a commitment. You have
Yes.
gotten people to be supporters,
Yes.
benefactors,
Yes.
think partners,
Yes.
thought leaders, all the
Yes.
things that
All
are
that.
happening, and the work is being done. And
Yes.
I would spend my time, downtown, and I'd go by there a lot and stop and
Yes.
see what's happening, and others here possibly the same thing, just
Yes.
wondering what's happening, what's going on here. And
Yeah.
then I learned that there was some
I went the wrong
commitment to
way.
restoring it.
Yes,
And
so
I started to see signage about a restoration.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to show
So
you
actually,
some pictures
yeah,
of this. That's
the
probably what it looked like
internal
when you were
picture.
going
Actually,
by.
go
Yeah.
back though for
Oh
a minute.
yeah.
Some people haven't
Oh,
seen.
this is my favorite. This
Yeah.
is my favorite picture. This is what it looked like in 2015 when they first opened the building up. Is what it looked like after all the rain and everything had destroyed the inside.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next picture you were about to show, but I stopped
No,
you
this
on
is
this
no,
one.
this is I can't really see the picture, so I'm happy you stopped me. I
Okay.
love this picture. So yeah, well, after the initial stabilization of the building, we actually opened up. So I think there's a picture in here of some folks inside the building. Yeah, see that? So we hosted probably 20,000 people over the 2 years in between Clayborn being open and we closing. So we had film festivals, we had church service every week, we had community conversations. The Rotary met in there every meeting. We had all kind of incredible stuff inside the building with it looking just like this. Like there was literally a net in the ceiling so that nobody would get hit in the head with like
Falling
with
plaster.
falling plaster shrapnel. It was a very dramatic. There was a tree growing inside the building, right? You went upstairs, there was like literally branches in the window like coming through the floor, and so the building was being reclaimed by nature, and also like was really holding kind of the wear and tear of all the environment coming inside.
Okay.
And still, yeah, we had weddings in the building. Like the building is, at the risk of being too esoteric, when you walk in the building, you feel the significance and the weight and the sum of everything that's ever happened in this space. And so for some people it's also a beautiful space. Like it's a very unique architecture called Romanesque Revival, which is only one of two churches in the whole region that has that, right, that shape on the inside. So part of it was like you walk in and the majesty of the shape, the beauty of the building, the history of the space, the energy of the space, whatever it was for people. For some of us it's all three, right? The people were drawn into the space. And so people wanted to do things there, and the proximity to downtown, right? It's just location wise, it's a very convenient thing. So we had events 3 or 4 nights a week in the building before we closed for renovation. And so in the 2 years that we were open, Clayborn became a part of the community again, an active part of the community again, after just sitting there languishing for 20 years.
Right.
And so when we closed, at that point, we closed on the 19th, and I shut the doors the same day. Like we're gonna, because the real truth is it wasn't really that safe to be inside. And so don't tell anybody I told you that, but it was not. And so I, as the new owner, I decided that we were not going to go inside anymore. We were going to renovate the building, and we're going to move on. And so in 2019, I started to do the work of bringing people together and raising money. But if you remember, December 2019, 4 months later, we were all inside.
Oh, right.
And so my plans significantly changed. And I couldn't get on planes and go raise money. And I couldn't do all the programs that I thought we were going to do. And so we moved online.
Okay.
And I did most of the fundraising, most of the programs. We never stopped doing programs at Clayborn. We did In This Place April of 2020 online. And so all the imagining and all that, like I kind of did in my apartment on Mud Island. Yeah.
And so then fundraising is continuing.
Yeah.
The pandemic is starting to change such that people are back and engaged and out. And talk about that sort of journey of getting there, and then more is happening, and of course we get to 2025 and devastation.
Yeah, so we were able to raise and spend about $8 million on the building. So we had every inch of the outside of that building was renewed, refreshed, or replaced. So we had a brand new roof. We had all new windows. I'm laughing because one day the contractor called me and said, "Oh, you remember when we told you that the walls were 6 inches from the foundation and we could fix it? Well, they're 17 inches from the foundation and we can't fix it. So we need to tear down the entire south wall and put all the stones in the parking lot on a map, and then build another wall, and then put the stones back on top of that wall. And so we need another $1 million, and we need it in 2 weeks." Okay? I was like, wow, who is this?
Right.
So, I mean, it was a construction project, right, of a 130-year-old building that had been abandoned for 20 years, and so there was all the things that happened. I don't know how many people have done a renovation, a kitchen renovation or anything. It's never what they say it's going to be. And it's exponentially never what they say it's going to be when you're dealing with a 30,000 square foot, 130-year-old building. And so I had never in my life, and for this to be my first renovation project, it was a wild thing to take on.
Right.
But I was able to handle it. Like I have deep relationships with funders. I have trusting relationships, right? One of the things that I pride myself on is I think a lot of people that have funder relationships are very transactional. They're like, I have this thing, give me this money and keep it moving. But I'm very relational with everybody who I work with, and the funders are no different. And so for me to call someone and say, hey, this is happening, I need this $1 million, is different than if somebody else makes that phone call, right? And plus, I think we have a lot of funders who are excited not just about the building. They're excited about the building, but they're really excited about what the building means for the future. Like the work that we're doing, the programs that we built, the ways that we are reimagining the city and the region is exciting to folks outside the city, because they're looking at us in Clayborn as a replicable, scalable model for communities like Memphis all over the country.
Right.
So we're talking about a city with a whole lot of stories, with a whole lot of poverty, a whole lot of division, and a lot of room for growth when it comes to relationship and trust and right all that. And we have just figured out how to do that in a way that brings people together and allows people to build trust and allows people to tell the truth about the past and dream together for the future. And that is exciting. And we've done that like while also thinking about very practical things like wealth building and like ownership and like governance and like environmental sustainability and repair, right?
Yes.
And public health and safety and all the things that a neighborhood needs and the community needs to thrive. We've built all that into our model. So we are doing the hard work and we're doing the relationship work, but I also want your material condition to change. I don't want it to be like, oh my God, we're such good friends now and I'm still poor and can't feed my kids. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And
Right.
so we've had to really do the hard work of figuring out how we both bring the heart but also the hands and actually change people's lives while we're helping them open up their hearts to something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, mindful of that and the fire,
Yes.
and that just wrecked hearts.
Yes.
And people, I mean, just the feeling of that, of helplessness. And,
Oh, yeah.
and no one will ever know what that felt like for you but you. And yet,
And thank God, because I don't want anyone to have to experience that feeling. It was
Right.
terrible.
Yeah.
It's still terrible. I could still, like, it's been only 6 months. And I forget that sometimes because so much has happened. So much has happened in the past 6 months. And I've been on so many planes and I've had so many conversations that sometimes I have to be gentle with myself and remind myself it's only been 6 months. So it's still hard.
Well, I mean, Grace St. Luke's is one of many communities that's been
Yes.
praying for you,
Oh, I
with
know
you,
it.
and the prayer that I used, I'd mentioned
Yes.
when we were talking, we started to add into our prayers of the
Yes.
people, just mindful of the beacon
Yes.
that is Clayborn Temple and the work that is underway to reimagine it,
Yes.
right? And so talk a bit about reimagining it
I
and,
will.
and fundraising and,
Yeah.
and what short-term, long-term.
I am going to talk about that, but I do want to take one moment to talk about the day of the fire because I think what you are talking about in terms of like how many people are praying for us was very evident on the day of the fire by the number of people who showed up to Clayborn Temple. I didn't have to make one phone call. I didn't call anyone to say this is happening. I need help. But from like starting at 3 o'clock in the morning, if people were hearing about what was happening, they were just getting in their cars and driving over. The
Right.
mayor was there at 7:30 in the morning. The fire chief was there. The fire chief doesn't show up to fires. The fire chief was there. So many city council people, so many regular people. Missy Lane, all the elders were out there. So many people who had never even been in the building were just driving up and coming to the. I was talking to some folks last night, and I was recalling that has anybody been to Ironman Plaza here? Y'all know there's like that wall around Ironman Plaza is on April 28th, 2025 that turned into the Wailing Wall. And there were just droves of people who would walk up to that wall because it was as far as you could go to get to the building, and they would just fall apart watching and holding each other and telling stories about their experience, whether they had gotten married there, or they had been ordained there, they were christened in that space, or they went to church there every day. Like decades, generations, hundreds of people came up to Clayborn Temple that day. And I feel like that was probably the worst day of my life, but also the day that I felt most loved and most in community. And so when I went to bed that night, I felt like it was going to be okay. Even though I had like been devastated in the worst way, I went to bed feeling like we can do this because I'm not by myself.
Right.
Yeah, so thank y'all for all your prayers and for everybody who showed up and people who call and hug me in the Walgreens. Like, I'm grateful for every one of those people. So, rebuilding.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think there's been a question about whether or not we were going to rebuild, which is so weird to me because that never crossed my mind that we were not going to rebuild, not for 1 second. I think it took me a little bit A lot of people don't know that we actually experienced 3 fires in 16 days. So it wasn't just Clayborn Temple that was burned down. It's
Right.
my house burned down. Well, it didn't burn all the way down, but it got caught on fire. And then my sister and I own some land in East Tennessee that our father left us, and that also was burned in that 16 days. And so part of what we were managing at the time was like, the loss of Clayborn Temple was devastating enough, but then we had to be in a conversation about my personal safety, because it is, sure, there is a chance that it was all a coincidence, but Clayborn Temple was certainly deemed an arson by the ATF about 2 weeks after the fire, and we hired a private investigator who said that the fire at my house was also arson. And so we're assuming that what we're dealing with is an arsonist that decided to target me for the work that I was doing or something, or maybe they didn't like my outfits or something, I don't know. And also like has decided to do their best to make me stop or leave. And I think one of the things that's important is for us to understand that if you think about the history of Memphis, it is not weird that somebody would would make a choice to try to make someone leave town using arson. That's happened here many times over the last 100 years. There are multiple cases of someone deciding that someone needed to get out and using arson to force them out. That's just the reality of our town. And so, you know, that night of the fire, like when I said I went to sleep knowing everyone was going to be okay, but I wasn't sleeping in my own bed because my Memphis elders came to me at the fire and said, meet us at your office at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And I met them at the office and they said, so you're not going home? And I was like, I don't understand. I'm tired. I want to go home. Actually, I wanted to already be home, and I'm only here because y'all told me to. And they were like, well, you've experienced now 3 fires in 16 days, and it is obvious that whoever's doing this knows every piece of property associated with you. And so we don't think it's safe for you to go home tonight. And so we've gotten you a hotel. We're about to drop you off right there. You're going to have a good night's sleep. We're going to have breakfast tomorrow and figure it all out. And so I think what people don't know who haven't had a conversation with me is that we have been navigating like the terror of being a victim of triple arson in 2 weeks, while also having to navigate the leadership of rebuilding this building and continuing to run programs and run an organization with a staff of 10 and so on, and do talks like this and all the things, right? And so my life has become an arduous but joyful maze to navigate for the last 6 months. And I'm having to really rethink what it means to be in this body with this life in this community. And I have a fantastic therapist. Finally, I was like, I need the best therapist on planet Earth right now. And so it's been also like a time of discovery, and I've had to become all the parts of myself that I've resisted for my whole life. Like I've had to embody them because I don't have a choice anymore. I cannot get through this without being the best, most confident, most secure, most visionary version of myself. Like the me that woke up on April 28th could not have gotten through the last 6 months. So I have really had to lean on my spiritual practice, on my emotional healing, and on my community to become the person who could sit here and have this conversation with you.
Well, talk about resilience. That's just,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, you know, and connected to that is your faith.
Oh, 100%.
And what resilience looks like in you that has allowed you to sustain this. If you're comfortable sharing about.
Well, I mean, honestly, my faith is the only reason why I do this work at all.
Okay.
Like, if I didn't have the faith life that I have, I would like be a veterinarian or something. Honestly, I deeply believe in the connectedness of all humanity. Like I think that is true. And so when I left my home, and that's what I was taught in my home, right? When I was growing up, it was like creativity and imagination and politics and community and care, like that was all one conversation in my house, and there was no question that I was responsible for other people. There was not ever a question. It was not even like you can do this or not. It was like, oh yeah, we. It was not even like a. No one ever even said it to me. It's just what happened in my house. And so when I went to college, and I was like, oh my God, these people do not care about other. Who are you people? And I somehow thought that it was in my power to help the rest of the world be like it was in my house. And it was like a belief in a deep belief in what I believed, but also like a deep belief in my spiritual power to be able to help transform other people's idea of what earth could look like. And so I only do the work that I do, and the work I've always done, because I've never not done this work in one form or another, is because I think that there's a vision that God has for the planet, and people are not paying attention or have decided to get distracted by one thing or the other, by money or vanity or greed or whatever, or fear, right? Like there's many things that take people off their spiritual path. And I believe that it is this is going to sound so corny. Oh my God. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I feel like I was born to be one of the people to help people shepherd us back to our spiritual reality. That's just what I think I'm doing on the planet. And I don't take that lightly. I don't think it means I'm special. I don't think it means I'm better, but I do think it means I have to stay focused. And it means I have to be disciplined, and it means that I have to have integrity. Like, oh my God, I'm not allowed to do nothing. Like I grew up so nerdy and so square. Like I didn't have my first glass of wine until I was like 30, because I just felt like I need to stay focused and clear, right? I'm trying to stop cussing right now, because I started cussing when I was 32. I think it was something about the wine that made me start cussing. And so now I don't drink any anymore, but I'm also like really trying to watch my mouth, and it's hard because I grew up in Jersey, but that's beside the point.
I see. Well, this is, I'm just mindful of this time of, and I know through website and other things about fundraising.
Yes.
Because we're coming to the end of our time.
Yes.
Just talk as we close about ways that Grace St. Luke's,
Absolutely.
the community of Memphis, can be supportive in a variety of ways to the work you're doing.
Yeah. So I think there's two things that we want. So one is we want people's presence. So we do programs all the time. We have an incubator for businesses. We do a lot of storytelling. Don't worry about it. We get it later. Thank you. We do obviously real estate development. So we own Clayborn Temple, but we also own the birth home of Aretha Franklin. We just bought the AMEC building last week, which is the office building next door to Clayborn Temple, where all of the closed door strike meetings happened with King and the national labor unions, right?
To the north of it.
I don't know the direction. You can't ask me.
By the garage.
Oh, no.
By the parking
yes,
garage.
the one right across from the parking garage at the Grizzlies stadium, whatever you call that arena. Yes, and so like we are thinking very deeply about the built environment and how we specifically leverage all the historic spaces in the city to become a more productive part of the physical landscape. So we have our three buildings, but we're also like supporting MSC Lane and supporting the First Baptist Beale, where Ida B. Wells' office was, and R.S. Lewis Funeral Home, or King Lane Estate. We're thinking about the interstitial connection between all these historic buildings, how we make sure that they are cared for, how we make sure they're activated in their programs so that they can actually bring more people, more stories, more wealth and access to the stewards, and thinking about how we support business and wealth building and obviously storytelling. So there's a lot of ways for people to show up and be in community with us from February 12th to April 16th every single year, which is the dates of the strike. We do a program called In This Place, where we do public programming. We'll have story circles that y'all can come to. Our artists in residence this year, right, is in the back. Rachel. She's doing, making a documentary about the city right now. So you'll be invited to that premiere. And so like, it's the most important thing for me is that y'all become part of the big we, right? Like that you see yourself as part of the we, and you show up. And very practically, we have $75 million to raise. We are 100% restoring the building. It'll look 100% exactly the way that it did when it was built back in 1892. Our period of significance from a preservation standpoint is April 4th, 1968. And so when you walk in the building, then you will be transported back to 1968. And we have exciting plans to build an immersive exhibit so you can have an experiential time about the strike. We are working with any nerds in here? Just me? Okay, fine.
Depends on the topic.
So I'm a Star Wars nerd. I had on my Chewbacca Crocs this morning. It's like very real for me, and I happen to be blessed with having being friends with the woman who designed the immersive Star Wars hotel for Disney. And she is now joined our team to help build an immersive experience in Clayborn Temple so that you can come in and be transported into a strike meeting in April of 1968. And so not only do you leave understanding the story, but you understand like your own visceral reaction, participation, learnings that you can take home to your own community, your own church, your own office, your own family.
Right.
We'll also have a venue in the sanctuary space called the Sanctuary at Historic Clayborn Temple. And then the thing I'm most excited about is that we'll be having an annex that will house the Robert R. Church Center for Cultural and Economic Innovation, where we will be thinking about building models, piloting models, and growing those models that are going to help bring new and exciting models that we are using to be able to build wealth and to build agency for Memphians. Yes. And then, now we have the office building, we'll have Island Man Plaza. So so this 75 million will not just rebuild Clayborn, but it will give us like a proper campus so that we now can do all the parts of our work in all the ways that we need to do it,
Right.
And invite people from all around the world to experience, Memphis in the way that it should be experienced, and all of its glory and all of its contradiction and all of its pain and hope and all the reality of who we are and who we've been and who we will be in the future.
Wow.
This is exciting,
Wow.
right?
Well, friends, join me in giving thanks. Wow. 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 Thanks
Yeah.
again. And
Thank
friends, thank you
you.
for being here. And
Thank y'all so much
we
for
will,
being
through our
here.
website, post things that you share
Yes.
so that you can be well informed, and
Yes,
we're grateful.
I am grateful. I have a request.
Yes.
We are very deeply thinking about our church communities and how we can build partnerships with churches like y'all's around the fundraising and the fundraising and the wisdom raising. And
Okay.
so if y'all have ideas about how we can engage with congregations like yours, I would love to talk about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
It's being well noted. I'm looking
Yes.
at lots of faces that are nodding, including from some of our vestry members.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes. Thank y'all so much for
Well, thank
listening to
you.
me talk for so long.